Let's get right into it. We're going to talk about one of the most painful mistakes pretty much all of us make at some point. Staying in a relationship for months, or let's be honest, sometimes years, after we know, deep down, that it's already over.
Does this hit a little too close to home? I knew it was over years before I left. Gosh, you hear this all the time, don't you? From friends, you read it in online forums. Maybe you've even said it yourself. There's this really weird, frustrating gap between knowing a relationship is failing and actually finally doing something about it.
And that's the big question, right? If we know it's not working, why on earth do we stay stuck? And listen, it has nothing to do with being weak or not being smart. There are these incredibly powerful, almost invisible forces that are pulling the strings. And today, we're going to unpack exactly what they are. So the first big idea we have to get our heads around is something called the pain threshold. This is pretty much the core reason why just knowing something is wrong isn't enough to make us leave. You see, there's a huge difference between being aware of a problem and actually taking action. Okay, so here's the deal. Every single one of us has a pain threshold. It's this invisible line where that constant low-level misery of staying finally feels worse than the sharp, terrifying pain of leaving. But the really scary part? Everybody's threshold is different, and a lot of the time it's way higher than we think it should be.
This quote is just chilling. It was originally used to describe the opioid crisis, but man, does it apply to toxic relationships. You think you've hit rock bottom. You think, okay, this is it, I can't take any more, this has to be the moment I change. But then you hit it, and you realize there's a basement, and then a trapdoor below that. There's often no logical limit to the pain we'll put up with before we finally decide to act. All right, so if we're willing to put up with so much pain, what is actually holding us hostage in these situations? Well, it's not just one thing. It's more like a combination of these really powerful psychological traps that all work together to create this feeling of complete paralysis.
So we're going to zero in on 3 of the biggest mind games our brains play on us: activation energy, the sunk cost fallacy, and what's called the ego trap. You throw in a general fear of loss, and bam, you've got the perfect storm for staying stuck. So let's break these down one by one. First up, activation energy. The best way to think about it is like this. Staying in a bad relationship, it's like you're just coasting downhill in a car. It's not a great ride, but it doesn't take much effort. But leaving, oh man, that's like trying to push that same car back up a steep hill. It takes this huge, massive burst of energy to deal with the heartbreak, the logistics, the awkward conversations, and honestly, most days just staying put feels a whole lot easier. And then you've got the sunk cost fallacy. This is a classic one. It's basically our brain tricking us into overvaluing what we've already put in. We think, I've already invested 5 years of my life in this. If I leave now, all that time was a total waste. So what do? We stay. We keep pouring more good time after bad, just hoping we can somehow make that initial investment pay off. It almost never does.
And this leads us to the sneakiest one of all, the ego trap. This is so subtle. At some point, the goal completely shifts. It's no longer about, hey, am I actually happy with this person? Instead, it becomes, can I win this person's love? Can I prove to them that I'm worthy? We get so focused on winning the game that we completely forget to ask ourselves if we even want the prize anymore.
Now, here's where it gets really wild. Our own biology, our own brain chemistry can totally work against us here. We can get trapped in this cycle where our brain is literally misinterpreting the signals of stress and anxiety and telling us it's passion, that it's love. And this just lays it out so clearly. On one side, you have the anxious chase. It's all fueled by stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. The highs you feel aren't actually joy. They're just moments of relief when the person finally throws you a crumb of affection. It's a chaotic roller coaster. But a secure relationship, that's built on bonding hormones like oxytocin. The highs are about real connection. It feels safe, it feels stable, it feels like home. And that cycle of chaos and relief can create something really dangerous called the trauma bond. It works just like a slot machine in a casino. It gives you rewards, but randomly. You pull the lever again and again and again, losing and losing, just because you know that eventually you might get a small win. That unpredictable reward system is one of the most powerful and addictive forces in all of psychology. Chris Williamson had this fantastic analogy. He said some people are like the drink Prime. That first sip is intensely sweet, it's thrilling, it's a rush, but try to drink the whole bottle. It's just way too much. A healthy partner, on the other hand, is more like a Diet Coke. It's satisfying, it's consistent, and you can enjoy it for the long haul. The problem is we get absolutely hooked on that intense first sip, and we mistake that rush for real sustainable chemistry. Okay, so we've gone deep into all the traps that keep us stuck. But how do you actually get out? How do you find some clarity in all this confusion? Well, the next step is a practical one. Think of this as your diagnostic kit. We're going to walk through 5 incredibly powerful questions you can ask yourself right now. And I really want you to take a second and think about these. Okay, first, the compliment test. If someone told you, you are just like your partner, would you feel proud? Second, are you genuinely fulfilled, or are you just not lonely? Be honest. Third, can you be 100% unapologetically yourself around them, or do you always feel like you have to perform? Fourth, this is a big one. Reality versus potential. Are you in love with the person they are right now, today, or are you in love with the fantasy version of who you hope they'll become someday? And finally, the ultimate gut check. Would you want your future son or daughter to date someone exactly like them? And that brings us to the ultimate test. Just imagine it for a second. You wake up tomorrow morning and poof, it's over. No messy breakup, no fight, no gut-wrenching conversation. It's just done. How do you feel in that moment? Are you devastated? Or is there this quiet, deep, overwhelming sense of relief? Your honest answer to that question tells you absolutely everything you need to know. You know, when people finally do leave these draining relationships, they so often feel broken. You hear them say, I completely lost myself. And that's a valid feeling, but I think there's a much more empowering way to look at it. It's time for a reframe.
And here's the crucial shift in perspective. You didn't lose yourself. You didn't. That painful experience was more like a giant spotlight. It didn't create new flaws in you. It just illuminated the patterns, the insecurities, the needs that were already there, deep down, just waiting for you to pay attention to them. It's not a loss, it's a revelation. A painful one for sure, but a powerful one that shows you where you need to grow.
Matthew Hussey uses this amazing metaphor from the TV show Chopped. He says, in life, we all get handed a basket of ingredients. You know, that's our past, our looks, our personality, our baggage. And we can spend our whole lives staring at our basket, wishing we had different ingredients. But that's not the point of the game at all.
Because that's the real game, isn't it? It's not about complaining about the ingredients you were given. It's about asking, okay, what can I create with this? That tough relationship, that heartbreak, that time you feel like you wasted, it's all just an ingredient in your basket now. And the only question that really matters is, what amazing thing you, the chef, are going to create with it next?